Welcome to ScottMoonwriter.com. I'll be reading Boss, Part 1. In my previous attempt at doing this, I did a little bit of kind of what's up with my writing journey, and then I read the story. I'm going to mix that up by just reading the story, and afterwards I'll talk a little about this, that, the other thing, if I remember, and if I have in fact started the video. So we'll get going. All right, so this is a story called Boss. I wrote it for Chris Kennedy and Mark Waundry's anthology, For a Few Credits More, and really enjoyed it. And so recently I got the rights back to it to republish it, and I was reading it, listening to it on my phone, and I really liked it, so I want to share it. So I am not a voice narrator. I'm not an actor of any sort. I have moderate equipment and almost no editing skills, but I'm going to read this story because it'll be fun. All right, Boss, originally written for A Few Credits More anthology by Scott Moon. 1. Ultramax Station. Johnny Boss looked across the interior of his rented assault ship. The broker had spent an hour describing how reliable it was for a planetary assault, and Johnny hadn't argued. The fewer people who knew about this highly illegal insanity, the better. Infiltrating Ultramax prison had nothing to do with a planet in the traditional sense. He wasn't sure if he had talked his XO, Gabriel Davenport, into the scheme or if it had been the other way around. The facts of Johnny's situation were as follows. The last three contracts he secured for the Ogre Fist Company, OFC LLC, had made 10% profit. Problem was, he needed 75% to pay back money he'd borrowed to repair and upgrade the CASPer mechs in his unit. He needed everyone functioning at full capacity on every mission. Davenport had disagreed, as always, and claimed it'd be smarter to get special upgrades for the best performers in the OFC. Everyone wins or everyone dies in this unit, Johnny said. Davenport snorted. Idealists die first, boss. Tacticians lead from the rear, Johnny retorted, holding the XO's gaze. Not this tactician. He shifted his weight, then tightened something on the cuirass of his armor. Johnny settled against the bulkhead, his armor already tuned and synced. He needed money. That was the first fact. The second fact, and this was bad, Jessup Moran, one of his better mercs, had been arrested for murder. Some of his ogres thought it was a frame job, and some thought Jessup had always been too quiet and had been storing up rage that came out at the wrong time. The thing was, Jessup wasn't the type to go rogue. He was responsible, level-headed, idealistic. So why had he run off to Callista at exactly the time this mysterious, worth more money than a battleship slate went missing? Johnny'd never seen a contract with this type of bounty attached to it, not for equipment recovery. This would have been easier if Jessup had come up to us in the first place, Davenport said. You need better control of the men. Johnny looked at him. You're my executive officer, and you don't let me do things the way they need to be done. We're all killers, Johnny. If one of our mercs disrespects either of us, we need to land on them with both feet. You know I'm right. Johnny stared at the wall, concentrating on all the things that had to go right if they were to survive an assault on a space station. You let Jessup off the leash. He stole a slate worth all our lives plus the price of a new house back on Earth, then got arrested for murder. Now you and me and the rest of the OFC have to break him out. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a good time, but some of us are going to die, Davenport said. Says the tactician, Johnny drawled, then counted to 10 in his head. Give the mission brief, XO. All right, listen up, Ogre Fist, Davenport said as he stood gripping the hand ring on the ceiling of the transport. Everyone but new guy over there has done this, but let's review. We must have surprise. That means no shooting until I tell you to start killing people. No shooting on this one, Johnny said without standing or raising his voice. Snatch and go, like a hostage rescue except from a prison. Peacemakers call that a breakout, Marnie said, her voice scratchy from a nicotine lozenge. That's why we're not going to make any noise, Davenport said, winking so hard he dropped his shoulder and leaned forward. The Ogre Fist Company mercs laughed and closed up their CASPers. Davenport continued the briefing in a rough voice. The only non-human in the group licked his chops, sealed his clear wolf head helmet, and slammed a chemical laser into his backup magazine. Not so hard, Marnie said. The Beskith warrior growled but ignored her. Other members of the OFC jumped on the opportunity. That's what you say to Nightmare every night, Lamar, the OFC engineer and mechanic, said. That's gross, Marnie said, and true. Chaos exploded on every radio link as Lamart stared as though he'd been hit on the helmet with a pneumatic hammer. Settle down, Johnny said. He leaned close to Marnie. Really? Are you trying to make everyone lose focus? Sorry, boss. Get ready, ogres, Davenport said. Deploying in 5, 4, 3, 2, go. The hatch opened. Johnny, despite knowing every detail of the plan he designed with Davenport and the senior team members, was surprised to see the inside of a landing bay. Even knowing the plan, he'd imagined jumping to the surface of the Ultramax station and cutting his way in with lasers. His feet remembered the drill from dozens of previous ship assaults, a rare skill few of the OFC possessed. Johnny Boss had learned his chops in some high-speed merc units prior to purchasing the OFC charter. Moving toward the primary objective, he led Lamart, Marnie, and Nightmare at a run, which could injure a novice in the zero-gravity environment. Ultramax station had spin to give the illusion of gravity, but no thrust as a starship might use. Without gravity, every magnetic step had to be perfectly timed. Too soft and you missed. Too hard and you might give yourself a concussion from the kinetic force transfer releasing into your armor and bones. A poorly timed step could feel like landing flat-footed on concrete. Marnie, don't forget the self-destruct timers on those relays, Johnny said. She grunted. Nightmare growled. The hallway remained as vacant as his source had promised. Davenport, what's your status? We're standing guard. No one's coming into your section. It would have been cheaper to clear this level the old-fashioned way. Bribes have less consequence afterward, Johnny said. Marnie and Nightmare looked at him. You'll get paid. Don't worry about it, Johnny said, teeth clenched inside of his armor. Keeping his battle lust under control was wearing him out. Worrying about money gave him a constant headache. Stay cool. We get Jessup, we get the slate, we collect the contract fee. Marnie and Nightmare smiled, her face barely visible, and his mouth full of teeth disturbingly obvious through his clear helmet. Johnny moved ahead of his team in search of Jessup Moran, who was supposed to be in an exercise room with a single guard. None of his OFC mercs understood what he had paid to make this happen, and he prayed they never would. Some currency meant more than credits. He wouldn't have paid this price, not even for Jessup, if there was another way to save the OFC. Contact, 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 Davenport shouted over the radio relays. Forget the knee shots. Hit him in the torso. They can take it. Don't worry about killing them. They ain't worried about killing us. Johnny cursed and rushed forward, muting his helmet speaker so he could think. First into the room, he saw 3 guards standing around Jessup. He lacked an environment suit, which had been part of the deal. The guards were sealed up in what looked like Mk-8 CASPers set for garrison duty. Team 1, stick to the plan. Kinetic weapons. Keep the engagement less lethal if possible, he said, then fired 15mm rounds at reduced velocities from his left arm gun as he moved. 3 strides, and 3 headshots later, he grabbed Jessup. Nightmare, I need one of those CASPers. The Besquith merc jumped on a guard and convinced him to shed his gear. Johnny tried not to watch. He prayed the low-tech slugs he'd fired hadn't penetrated and ruined the helmet Jessup would need if prison controllers vented the atmosphere. He knew they shouldn't, but things never worked according to plan in the heat of a fight. Hurry up, we've got to go. New guards responded in teams of 2. Johnny pointed at the doorway to his right. Marnie, that's yours. He faced his own zone and fired at each new threat. conserving ammunition and hoping for non-lethal armor shots. Knocking the guards down proved to be a short-term solution at best. Headshots, Johnny called out, stomach churning. Killing wasn't new to him, but shooting from the wrong side of the law pressed inward on his ability to think clearly. A headshot from this range, with or without penetrating armor, was hard on the equipment and the person inside. Slug velocities could only be reduced so much before accuracy went into the toilet. The 15mm rounds retained quite a bit of kinetic force transfer potential at any speed. This sucks, Marnie said as she dragged a body clear of her position. Flashbang grenades tumbled into the room. 5 guards in MK8 armor rushed in, followed by 5 more who went for Nightmare and Jessup like they had bounties on their heads. Johnny clicked the firearm to his leg plate and pulled his laser carbine from his back, firing before he finished aiming. Instinct served him well. The prison's special weapons and tactics team scattered. Marnie staggered forward from an injury that pierced her left thigh plate. She fired her laser one-handed and tried to relatch the plate with the other. Johnny ran across the room, posted in front of her to absorb and return fire, and grunted orders. Secure your weapon and see to your injuries and armor. Nightmare flanked the SWAT team and infilated them with laser blasts. Johnny switched out the chemical laser magazine and dropped the partially used mag in a large pouch on the opposite side of his armor. Team 2, we have the principal. Rendezvous at the ship, Johnny said. Marnie finished spraying nanite gel into her leg, closed the armor plate, and looked at him while giving the thumbs up. Nightmare, carry Jessup. I don't care if he can walk on his own. Let's move. He bounded to the front of their formation at each intersection, then allowed Marnie to do the same, although she was limping badly. Is your CASPer damaged or are you hurt badly? Johnny asked. Little of both, she said. Davenport and the rest of Team 2 burst into the hallway from a smoking intersection. Johnny cursed as someone bumped him hard enough to slam his MK7 CASPer into the wall. We're bunched up. Get into the launch bay and get to the shuttle. Best possible speed. 10 feet into the room, the shuttle already hovering for launch, the prison guards made a massive assault, platoon strength or greater. Cheeto Briggs, the youngest of the Ogre Fist Company and part of Team 2, charged the guards with lasers in both hands. He drove them back, but Johnny understood the effect would last only seconds. Ballistic rounds and lasers slammed and cut and chopped into Cheeto's CASPer, knocking him off his feet 3 times. He rolled into a fighting stance, twisting this way and that, and fought like an alley cat. Crazy-ass kid, Davenport said as he stood on the assault ship ramp next to Johnny. Get in here, Cheeto. In the response to the order, Cheeto fell flat on his face with his CASPer going into death throes. Johnny and Davenport ran to him, shooting guards and screaming the OFC war cry as they moved, then dragged the ruined mecha back to the escape ship. Cheeto, Johnny said as he flipped. Cheeto, Johnny said as the ship fled the Ultramax prison. Boss? You need to work on your technique. Having huge balls isn't enough in the Ogre Fist Company. All right, that is the first part of that story. The next 2 parts are a little bit shorter. The next part is Ungrateful and then Spaceport. So I'll probably read both of those next week on Tuesday for Storytime Tuesday. And as kind of a extended outro, I'll tell a little bit about what I'm doing right now. So my name's Scott Moon. This is scottmoonwriter.com. I write military science fiction, urban fantasy, and some other stuff. I'm a co-host on Keystroke Medium. If you haven't gone over there, I encourage you to do so. It's a really fun place to be. We do a lot of stuff. Currently, we have 2 audiobook type podcasts that we're working on doing. Chuck Manley, one of our other show hosts, is going to be reading some short stories. He's got a great voice and really does a good job. So that's kind of by request. A lot of our show viewers wanted him to try that. And then I have a narrator named Reese Allen Morse, who has narrated my Dragon Badge books and my Chronicles of Ken Roland books. He's going to narrate Shorty, which is a first-person, present tense, mech warrior type story that I've started recently. They're about 12,000 words each, so they'll be approximately 4 episodes of about 15 to 20 minutes each in those podcasts, and I'm really excited. Reese is extremely good at voices, unlike me, and really can bring the characters to life. So I hope that you guys go over to Keystroke Medium and check that out. If you are interested in this story I just read, Boss, it is available on Amazon as an ebook or just as a KU Kindle Unlimited ebook. I put the link in the show notes for this YouTube podcast, and that's pretty much it for the story. This will take a few weeks to get this one read. I'll do it every Tuesday. So I am a writer, of course. A lot of you people that are here probably already know me in the real world or from the show, and it's not a big surprise. So I like to talk about writing. I like to talk about my writing journey and just some general interest things. So lately I've been working on collaborative writing projects with Richard Fox, who wrote the Ember War series, and also with J.N. Chaney, who writes the Renegade Star series. The first book in the Renegade Star universe, per se, that I've written is titled The Last Reaper, and it should come out February 10th. I really am excited to see what people think of that one. I'll be writing a bunch of those, and I'm also starting to work on the 5th and final book of the Terran Strike Marines with Richard Fox, and that is Got Mit Uns. If you're a fan of the Ember War, you know what that phrase means. It means technically God with us, but it's also something that's a catchphrase that a lot of the characters say when times get tough. So very, very excited story. It'll tie in with the Terran Armor Corps that he just wrapped up. Encourage you to check those out. Those are really good books. And then I have a bunch of other stuff. So if you want, I will, leave some comments or message me. Go over to the Scott Moon group or Scott Moon Writer on Facebook. Go to Keystroke Medium on Facebook and let me know if you want something different in these types of shows, and I'll put it in there. I can talk about writing process. I can talk about the tips and tools that I have if anybody's interested in that, or I can just tell some goofy stories. One of the reasons I write these books is because I have a lot of stories from my real life, but I can't really talk about them because they involve other people, and I don't want to out somebody or embarrass somebody or somehow, engender some type of liability. So I write fiction, and I write science fiction, urban fantasy. Crazier the better. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I hope you watched this, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe to my channel. Go over and join the Scott Moon group on Facebook, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.